can't tell.
We're so sorry. We're going to get happy, stay happy, and be happy in this COVID world. Sometimes technology, Brandy and I feel bad sometimes when your news syndicates and they're losing connection all the time, and so that is part of this world. And so there's nothing to be stressed about. We're glad that you're back, and I think we're going to reconnect with Rabbi Cernovitz in just a minute. One of the questions and comments that came through tonight was this: part of the teaching tonight mentioning being able to feel things or understand things emotionally that you cannot comprehend with your mind. What is the appropriate balance between listening to your head, as it were, and listening or following your heart or your emotions? And I'm going to just say something briefly, and then I'm going to turn it to Rabbi Cernovitz. I think there is a head-heart connection that is very important, and in order to achieve that authenticity, that level of being genuine and refusing disingenuousness, there has to be a listening to the heart. The head sometimes will worry about, if we can go here, if I become an inclusive spiritual community, will people still give? Will they leave the church? Will we be able to turn the lights on? Will we be able to be a solvent financially? That's what the head says. But sometimes the heart says, there's a greater need. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there not a need for justice? Is there no cause? And so sometimes that heart has to think for and with your head. And we quoted it earlier, but watch this, as a man thinks with what? His heart. So really, we don't manifest from our head knowledge. We manifest our reality from our heart knowledge. What's in our guts? What do we know beyond even being able to explain this is right? And as we talk about sometimes at Spirit of Truth, being on the right side of history. It may not be popular. It's becoming more popular, thank God. But Dr. King warned us of being ashamed of a pitiful minority. What does that mean? Those who may be in a minority of thinking. Well, it doesn't matter if I don't have a lot of people agreeing with me. I know that love is right. I know that inclusion is the higher wave. I know that that interfaith connections is better than disagreement and war and disunity. And so with that, I'm going to throw that to Rabbi and see if you have any reflections on that.
The book of Proverbs teaches beautifully on that, as well as the book of Jeremiah. As Jeremiah says, in 17:9 says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and is exceeding weak. Who can know it?" And the challenge there, is that there is that heart and head balance, and there is much debate on what the lave actually was back then in the biblical world. So some would say that the head is the heart and the heart is the head, that it was all flipped, and the lave is actually your head, which means don't trust your head, because sometimes you will overanalyze and you will think thoughts that are not pure. And we talked about having an attitude of gratitude or other things of that nature. Is that in particular, as you've said, talking about coveting of hair, is that the powerful thing is that we actually in many ways don't even know what we need, and we pursue things that we don't need, and we pursue things that we think we want, and then when we get them we realize we never needed them in the first place. And there's a real power in balancing the head and the heart. But what I would also say is that while it's important to feel, sometimes feelings lead us astray. We've seen so many times in recent days that if it's only about how I feel and it's not steeped in rationality and kindness and mercy and love, then we know where that can go too. So I think there's a really important balance that exists there.
That's a lot of wisdom there with finding that balance. One of the concepts in Buddhism is finding the middle way, that place of moderation. As you know, Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, our church is located on Midway Road, and so that's no accident. Is learning to balance the head, the heart, as we say at Spirit and Truth, we are both spirit. We have exuberant, emotional, sometimes even transcendental experiences in our worship services, but we are also truth. And so those things are really not in opposition. They're in cooperation. They're complementary of each other. And so that's a lot of wisdom there, Rabbi. Thank you for that. Is there another comment?
Yes, several. Well, first of all, Rabbi, you have to know that we're a very friendly group of people and a very loving bunch. So everybody is virtually hugging you. Lots of welcomes and welcome home and that type of thing. So welcome. I just wanted to pass along all the love. But Richard said, wow, what a great confirmation of what Spirit and Truth has been teaching for years. We are indeed one. Nothing is new under the sun. Thank you, Rabbi. Service.
Wow, that's awesome. I'll reflect, Richard, if you'll look right past the rabbi's, I think it's his left shoulder, but if you see over his shoulder, he has a beautiful statement on his office wall. And I know most of what that says, but it says Black Lives Matter. It says, I can't read it. My eyes are not as good as they used to be. But it says
anti-Semitism.
It says something about anti-Semitism.
Science is real.
Science is real. Love is love. I mean, these are statements. These are statements of who we are. And we have another neighbor just up the street who has that same sign in their yard. My daughter and I were walking our dogs a couple weeks ago, and they were out in their front yard. And I said, "Hey, I just want to thank you for this sign, for raising the vibration of this neighborhood toward inclusivity, toward an understanding of the interconnectedness to all of the human family." And so I'm going to let Rabbi give a few thoughts about how we all are interconnected, both Christians, those in Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, all of the branches of that. We all have maybe a little different take on things, but there's also something that connects all of us. And we talked about that for hours last night. I'm going to throw it to you, Rabbi, for a minute.
Yeah, and Dia, thank you for that, and Brandy, I thank you for that, and Richard and everybody else, I thank you for your love. Because one of the things I've as Dee said that people come into your lives for a reason, as God sends people to you, and you never know when someone's going to come. You never know what moment. And when I was working in Camden in Camden County, New Jersey. I became very close friends and brothers with a pastor there in Camden, New Jersey. And for many years together, we would share the pulpit. I would preach at his church, and he would preach at my synagogue. And every time that he would get in front of my community, he would say, "I love you." First words. And my community, the first time, never met him, had no idea who he was, and must have been thinking, "What do you mean you love me? You don't know me." And the concept is 100% right. I love you. And honestly, tonight, for Spirit and Truth, I love you. I don't even see you. I can't even hear you. And I love you because we share a common humanity. And there is a power in that in itself. And even more when we think about it, in the Hebrew Bible, there is one commandment that is mentioned more than any other. And that is v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love your neighbor or love the stranger as yourself. And as Dee mentioned earlier, that I was very blessed on June 4th of 2019 to give the invocation to the United States House of Representatives. And just prior to going on the floor of the House, I met with the House chaplain, who was at the time, they just replaced him, but Father Conroy, and we were talking, and he mentioned to me that day on the House floor, they would be debating immigration policy. And he said to me, he looked at me and he said, "Isn't it true that loving the stranger as yourself is mentioned more than any other time, any other commandment in the Hebrew Bible?" And I said, "In fact, Father, it is. It's mentioned 36 times, which means there is something to pay attention to." And I said to him, I said, "Father, because they're debating immigration, can I add that to my invocation this morning?" And he said, "Absolutely." And I added that to the invocation, and I said very clearly, I said, "Love the stranger as yourself," mentioned more than any other commandment in the Hebrew Bible. And if there is any lesson that we can learn from thousands of years ago to the modern day, we are all the children of God. We are all created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. We're all unique. We're all special. And when we cease to see that in the other, we deny God's presence in this world. Wow. So as we were talking about last night, Dee, that the bottom line is that faith in America has shown a real hypocrisy. That we preach one word and we act another. And I'm tired of hearing and watching leaders of our government preach a good game and quote the Bible and do exactly opposite of what the Bible teaches. It is time to come clean. It is time to call people out.